Hello, good people, and welcome to Let's Live, Love, and Learn with Khalil Hill. I go by the name of Khalil Jiddu Hill, and I'm excited once again to share a piece of myself with you today. But first, let's get this disclaimer out of the way. What follows are my thoughts and my beliefs that I've accumulated over the last 20 to 25 years on my spiritual journey. As always, I will, encourage everyone to use their own discernment when listening to this content. There'll be things that you agree with, things you won't agree with. Guess what? It's absolutely 100% okay. I just want you to contemplate those concepts that resonate with you and then leave the rest behind. I share these life lessons not to get you to adopt them, but to inspire you to seek and find your own to help enrich your lives. And ultimately, this creative expression, I just hope helps others feel a little less alone and a little bit more loved as they, travel their journey through this thing we call life back to the heart of the creator. So last video, we transitioned from talking about Khalil Gibran and his impact on my life to Jiddu Krishnamurti and his collection of works and teachings that's found in the book Total Freedom. I discussed how he influenced my pursuit of truth, how I, process, information, how he liberated my mind and gave me the courage to seek, outside of the norm and the confines of, my early religious upbringing within the Baptist church and within Christianity. So we also kind of delved, I guess, dovetailed into talking about how that journey outside of Christianity really taught me the life lesson that no one faith or religion can house every truth of God. And so, looking on to this video, we're going to continue the discussions around Jiddu Krishnamurti's teachings and the book Total Freedom and the life lessons that I extracted from it. And so today's life lesson is to question and challenge every authority in your life. Now, I know when you hear that, right? It's very logical to interpret that life lesson, to assume it's a call to arms and that I'm asking everyone to get your pitchforks and march outside and we're not gonna take it. And that is not what I am asking you to do. It's a little bit more subtle than that, to say the least. But, who knows how things may manifest in our world. But, as I mentioned in the last video, before I could really embrace, my authentic self, before I could really, guess, truly get on that path of self discovery and knowing what I truly believed and what I could truly adopt as truth, I had to go through a process of reassessing everything. I had to reassess any of the truths that I had, you know, uh, adopted in my life. I had to uh, reassess those lies that I discarded as well. And, everything was going through a reevaluating process to truly figure out, what was truth and what I was not going to count as truth moving forward. And so, that was a process of kind of, ridding myself of biases, of filters, of prejudices, in order to see things for a little bit closer for what they truly are. Obviously, it's very tough. Uh, I would even venture to say near impossible to get rid of every single bias that you have. But, I did, my best in order to get rid of as much as I can in order to see things for what they truly were, in order to truly assess them and truly decide whether, I wanted them to be a part of who I was and a part of my journey moving forward. So, that's me. To you, gosh, that can mean questioning parents, that can mean questioning teachers, that can mean coaches, organizations, social norms, customs, traditions. All of that's on the table. To many of you, any one of those things could be having an influence and could be an authority in your life, that maybe, has rules or keeping you confined and behavioral patterns that aren't healthy for you. And so, a few things that Krishnamurti said that I want to share with you in this video. The first being that uh, he believed that we are accustomed to authority and believe in authority will lead us to spirituality. And then he continues and argues that we have too much dependence on others when it comes to our spiritual growth. And that's something that honestly, I 100% agree with him on this. I believe that who we are or how we feel about our identity is almost wholly intertwined with the values of those chosen authorities that, we have in our lives and what we deem to be right or wrong. It's directly linked, to those authorities that we have chosen in our lives. And honestly, some that we haven't chosen that we've just accepted. Um, I believe that every choice and every action that we take is judged according to those authorities, whether it's, by ourselves because of our indoctrination of that authority, others that share, in their belief and their acceptance of that authority, and then the authority itself. So we're getting judged from, every angle, and I feel like when I identified as a Christian, right, there was an unending list of actions and inactions that were deemed to be wrong, deemed to be wicked, deemed to be sinful. It was almost impossible for me to feel like, I was worthy of love, and or develop any sense of pride or a true sense of self worth because there was always this feeling of being hopelessly flawed, and falling short of an almost unattainable standard. And so obviously there may be some interpretations out there that a little bit more gracious and forgiving of the human state of humanity. But most of what I read through the years, when I was a Christian, whether it was the Bible or, going to Sunday school or church, it pretty much, the message came through loud and clear that, who I was, who we are, being human being, is inherently sinful, and we are wholly dependent, or we were wholly dependent on God's grace and mercy in order to be redeemed. And so the question is, why did I believe that? I had to really ask myself, why did I believe that? Why did I accept that the Bible and Christianity was the ultimate authority to determine my worth? Um, why did I allow it to be the primary source of my self worth for so long? Now, obviously, that answer has many many layers, and we cannot get into all of them. But I do believe that people are introduced to concepts of God and their parents religious practices at a very young, impressionable age, right? Um, Obviously, I believe that there is tremendous value when it comes to being raised with some awareness uh, of something that's greater than ourselves, of the divine. During those formative years, it's important to establish, some type of relationship, with God, and I talked about the importance of that in the last video. But I don't think that that means that our concept of God or our relationship with God should never change, should never evolve. Um, and that's something that honestly, I truly believe that our relationship with God is something that should be ever evolving. It's something that we should always be seeking to understand ourselves, those around us. And with that understanding, it should provide a little bit more insight and feedback, not only about ourselves, not only about the society in which we live, but also of the creator himself or itself. And so, um, I believe I held so tightly, to Christianity, to the teachings of the Bible, because they made up so much of my identity. It was essentially who I was. And without them, I didn't have a firm sense of self. And I was not clear as far as my understanding of what my moral center was, what was right and wrong. Like, you're completely lost whenever you come up and essentially your whole identity, is intertwined with the teachings, of a religion or teachings of a faith. And everyone that surrounds you is of that same belief as well. So obviously there's comfort as well, and there's this feeling of acceptance, whenever you conform to the faith, and and conform to the expectations of those around you as well. To contend with convention and the pressures of conformity, uh, gosh, it took a lot more courage than I anticipated, to be honest with you. But something that I've alluded to a couple of times, and I even mentioned last video, there are those moments, in your life that, it's almost like your spirit is awakened, it's disturbed, and you realize something just isn't right. And that moment, and I look back on it, over the last few years, I've looked back on it with more prominence and more importance. Like, me deciding that, you know what, I was not going to go along um, with this idea that, my friends who were homosexual, you know, that I was to, that they were going to hell, that they were an abomination to God, that they deserve to spend the rest of eternity, in hell, gnashing their teeth. Like, that is something that I kind of drew a line. I think that, to me, it was very, it went against everything that I had been taught about the one and only true God, right? Who was a God of love, a God of peace, a God of forgiveness, a God of mercy. And to me, it just blew my mind. And it did not make sense that this very same God would condemn, two very loving, kind, generous people to hell for something that was not a choice of theirs, that in many ways they were created this way. And gosh, I know that when I say this, a lot of people are going to throw up their hands, they're going to be exasperated with me, and they're going to cut off the video. Like, I get that. Like, some people don't feel like it's a choice, but I know I did not choose to be heterosexual. I didn't one day say, you know what, I'm going to go with girls. Like, that didn't happen with me. And the only thing I can do is, you know, make the assumption that that probably didn't happen to them as well. And if you speak to most of them, they'll be what they'll say. And so to me, it just did not square that this God of love would banish, his children to the fires of hell and damnation because of something that honestly, they didn't choose. And it's still love, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's one of the things that was the real break. That was the first real break that I had with Christianity, because the other disagreements that I had with members of the church, pastors, deacons, whatever the case may be, that was a matter of interpretation. That was a matter of translation. Like, you've had different denominations within Christianity, and a lot of that is with semantics as far as different translations, different interpretations of things, right? This was different, right? This was seismically different. This was like, I don't agree where you stand morally uh on this issue. And so the Bible and Christianity made up a big part of my identity, but it became clear to me that it didn't have to, right? Obviously, a lot of those teachings, I most of those teachings I still hold very dear to me. But it became very clear that I did not have to be beholden to every single thing that I was taught. Um, I began to understand that the true essence of faith, at least what I felt like was the true essence of faith and religion, was the faith and the love that is found within it, within the congregation, within the people. And, that thankfully I realized that those two things weren't unique or exclusive to any one religion. It was something that I could take with me no matter where my journey led. And so I decided, you know what, faith and love were going to be my guides. Faith and love would help me establish a more intuitive, moral compass. They would also help, me form the cornerstones of a new organic belief system as well. And so No, questioning and challenging every authority in your life isn't about uh, fighting or overthrowing any particular authority. It's not taking to the streets, breaking down doors and burning things to the ground. It's not about that at all. At least the way that I'm sharing it with you. It's more about evaluating and questioning those authorities in your life and determining if they faithfully serve you as you've served them. Uh, are they leading you toward and helping you realize your potential, or are they stifling you? Are they limiting your capacity to love and your capability to grow, evolve, and to expand? Does your authority empower you and invigorate you, or does it drain and deplete you? Do you feel like you can be yourself uninhibited? Or are you forced to uncomfortably contort and conform and compromise to appease its restrictive demands? Uh, those are just some of the questions, that I asked, my authorities. Uh, and I suggested you ask yours as well, and pose those questions, challenge those authorities to see, if they can withstand the challenge. Can they withstand the questioning? Because if they can't, if you know, their rule over you falls apart with a little challenging and a little questioning, if it can't withstand that and it can't respect that, then maybe you should rethink your allegiance, Once again, this isn't to say what you should or should not believe. This is saying that whatever you choose to believe, whatever you choose to be loyal to, it should withstand a little questioning. It should withstand a little challenging. And if it's defensive of that, uh, that I feel like it's a problem, you know? And that's even more reason why you should continue challenging and you should continue questioning. So don't just settle, or just go along with something that's so important, right? And so, in closing, here's your question that I am once again excited to see the answers to in the comments. Who are the authorities that you've allowed to govern your life? Are they faithfully serving you as you serve them? Are they helping you grow and expand, or are they stifling you? Do they invigorate or do they drain you? Put your answers in the comments below. I, as well as the community, I'm sure would be excited to read them. And then today's quote and message to my son: most have ceded their moral authority to the opinion of the majority. But when the divine stirs within us, it may require our courage and conviction to contend with conformity and convention. All right. Thanks for spending another 15 to 20-ish minutes with me. It's truly a joy to share a part of myself with all of you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Know that you are never alone and that you are always loved. Peace out.